So even though I'm not overly fond of the idea of discussing the recent changes to YouTube's terms, I feel like my hand is being forced, with the number of creators, either by their action or action taken against them. We could start with iDubbbz, who lost his leafy content cop. I should say that was the very first content cop I'd ever seen of his, and I believed at the time that while he was quite abrasive in how he approached Leafy, it was justified by Leafy's own action. Whether or not that is suitable for monetization, that's up for debate. I personally think everything should be monetized, and advertisers should stop being given so much power. It is after all the creators that made the platform, not them. Courtesy of the quartering, we found out that Bering has also lost a video, but he is not the only one. Bering is one of those rather unusual creators. He doesn't attack based on most of the generalized, nebulous rules of YouTube. He doesn't tend to attack people based on appearance, which is in the new list of rules. He doesn't tend to go for ad hominems, but he is very funny, and some of it can be considered offensive or insulting if you don't have a funny bone. Comedy is subjective, but I'll be honest, he's funny regardless. Even on that rather delightful podcast he does with Dankula and, well, even the quartering. Other creators and dear friends of mine have gone out of their way to remove content because they believe that they are going to be struck. Some because they have been demonetized and they wanted to be remonetized. Some doing it and getting remonetized when there's nothing on their channel, like Metica. Or some doing it and still getting nothing, like Sinatra. I have it on good authority because I watched his stream. Cognitive Thought is going to be removing a large swath of content from his channels to keep them monetized, because he's taken a similar stance to myself. Adapt. I don't want to adapt like this though. I would very much like to be honest, frank and upfront. But apparently, the only way to succeed on this platform is to pander to those that themselves are renowned for being inconsistent. I have videos that I have released recently, all of which monetized, which, I'll be honest, I've had to be creative in ways that I could say things without it getting demonetized, because the subject matter on its own would not have been approved because of the nature that I was speaking of. If you would like examples, exhibitions 7 through to 9, all of which have one subject that probably shouldn't be approved for monetization, and yet all were. I'm very grateful they were, by the way. That series is doing very well on this channel. However, I'm very much aware of the inconsistent nature of those that review the content that then gets approved on the site. Michael B. Petty has also lost content and been issued a strike. Now, I bothered to watch most of the content I subscribe to. Michael B. Petty is on the list, because I do pay attention to things like Amberlynn Reid and Flobby Blobby's updates and their Vlogmas nonsense. Mostly because there's going to be an exhibition of stupid people next week, and they are both going to feature in it. He has a very no-nonsense, blunt attitude towards certain traits and habits and actions taken by those people he reacts to. I tend to draw the line at anything involving harming a child and an animal, or a pet to be more specific, although animal as a broader term should still qualify. I reserve a considerable amount of ire for that. The video in question did concern that, where he raised a number of very legitimate concerns concerning Amberlynn Reid's failure to properly care for her pets. But he still got a strike for bullying. That is unacceptable. The video was anything but. It was criticism. And if there is the odd ad hominem in there, it is entirely justified by the actions of the person that YouTube is still enabling and monetizing for what can only be considered prolonged self-destruction, which is, quite frankly at this point, entirely astonishing. The reason I chose not to speak up on this was because of a plethora of videos made by the likes of the Quartering, Repzion and Cogstream. Those are to name a few because I can't be bothered to name the rest. Repzion did a fantastic job covering the fear many have with the hashtag YouTubeIsOverParty, because YouTube is proving itself over and over again to continue to hammer all creators except for those who align with their beliefs. But their beliefs don't even work within the majority of those that use the site. They are beliefs they are imposing upon others, because that's totally how this works. I will link Repzion's video, by the way, if you are at all interested in listening to his view. I will of course also link Cog's stream and maybe even one of Quartering's videos. He does make a lot, chances are it's already lost in his own video feed. No offence, Jeremy, I just can't keep up. It's like Mundane Matt when he was active, or V when he was also active, maybe even Bearing, but at least he stuck to one a day. For the last few months I have regularly criticised Susan Wojcicki. I have criticised YouTube for changing its rules. I've always indicated though I will adapt, and I will continue to do so. Upon seeing Michael B. Petty shill his Twitch, I realised perhaps I should do the same. So if I am ever struck off YouTube, I can fall back on Twitch. Now I do stream on Twitch on a regular basis anyway. I think I have about 500 followers, something which I'm immensely proud of. I also do use BitChute, something many will not shill. I will shill it, because I really want to grow that platform. It doesn't make me any money. I don't care about that. It is about giving those within my audience who would like to be sure they are always going to be able to see content from me, from being able to see my content. I'm not going to shill Gab, even though I do shill politics videos on the politics thread of that site. But I do have a Minds, I do have, obviously, my Twitter. I'm not as spread out as someone like Styx Hexenhammer, but let's face it, who is? I want to quickly address now the tweet that YouTube put out, their Team YouTube. This tweet. Today we announced changes to our harassment policy to better protect our creators and community. Press X to doubt. We've gotten a head start answering top questions below. Read on the, that, for resources and frequently asked questions, and drop a comment if you still have any questions. Question. When will YouTube start enforcing the updated harassment policy? Answer. Will gradually ramp up enforcement in the coming months. Many people were worried a few days ago that their channel would be nerfed. Myself and the artist formerly known as Irate Bear had spoken about this briefly together because we are both concerned we may lose content and or our channel. I'm concerned because even though I am considered quite neutral and take a somewhat polite stance on a number of people when they have done things that are abhorrent, could get hit regardless because the nebulous enforcement that comes from our own benevolent rulers, who seem quite alright, fobbing off the necessary work that comes with being consistent onto others who themselves are inconsistent. As far as this enforcement goes gradually, that just means there's more chance it'll happen over the next few months, which scares a lot of people, especially those who in December are doing really well through subscriber growth and earnings, who could then get struck and lose everything anyway. Question. Why are you changing the harassment policy? The answer to that is because they suck. But their answer they gave is we recognise that harassment, vague, hurts both those that are targeted and our community by discouraging people from sharing opinions and engaging with each other. We want to better protect the community's right to feel at home on YouTube. Feels like a direct shot at politics and formerly the anti-SJW and SJW communities, really, doesn't it? Or anyone within social commentary. Although, one could argue this is a direct shot at social commentary as a whole, because apparently opinions do matter, as long as they're the right ones and everyone just listens to them, as opposed to those who would like to believe there is room to criticise. Because criticising, by the way, is not harassment. Question. What should I do if I feel like I'm being harassed? Feels before reels, not even wasting my time with the answer. Question. Does this mean that criticism is no longer allowed on YouTube? The full answer in the tweet below. Wide-ranging debate opinions on YouTube are welcome. Challenging ideas or critiquing someone's professional performance is different from attacking someone based on attributes like their race, religion, or sexual orientation. I would argue, if someone makes one of those things the focal point of their argument, then it is necessary to use it to tear the person down by pointing out that that's such an arbitrary factor should play no part in the majority of cases where debate, discussion, and argument take place. You could argue this is now semantics. I would argue I'm right, and you should have all voted for Cthulhu 2020 yesterday, so I could have ended your lives. In the tweets that follow underneath this thread, which I'll link below, many people then start to poke holes into things like what is harassment and context. YouTube even addresses the context argument, but one could argue they still don't seem to know what they're talking about, because they have proven themselves over the last 4 years that I've been here, 4.5 no less, I know, woo, to be inconsistent in enforcing and have proven before that context doesn't matter because videos have been struck regardless. Proof of that is the iDubbbz video, the content cop on Leafy. As far as I'm concerned, YouTube, you are doing everything you can to alienate your creators under the guise of them either getting good and getting on board or them just disappearing for wrong think. 'Cause criticism is bad even if we say context is okay. You've proven yourselves completely to be contradictory, hypocritical, and rubbish. Anyway, with this, I'm very much interested to know what you think about it. So please do let me know in the comments below. As Boris Johnson won the general election, there is a new video on the Moistski Live video covering that. I shall be streaming over on the Moistski Live channel at 9:30 PM GMT with TrupsLP, and I'm also streaming just before that at 7 PM GMT over on Twitch. So if I don't see you over on those channels tonight for streams, I hope you have a fantastic Friday and subsequent weekend, and thank you all for listening. Oh, and thank you for the 61,000 subs. Woo! So happy.